What's up, traders? What's up, tycoons? Super excited for today's video. We're going to talk about TLT, give a nice breakdown of the daily time frame, as well as a clean weekly chart, so things are a little bit easier for you to see the trends and what's happening. We'll talk about TNX, because if you're going to be trying to trade bond ETFs, you need to be paying attention to treasury yields. All right, we'll also do a clean weekly chart and then go over some of the key levels on a daily time frame that I'm watching. And of course, we'll break down the SPY S&P 500 ETF as well. And go over what the bears really need to do for us to actually go bearish, right? I mean, seems everyone is bearish right now. And, just because we're making new highs right now and we've had a tremendous rally, but until something significant happens, and we'll go over what it is that really needs to happen, the bulls are still in control for at the moment. All right. Now, it's going to be a really good video. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you do, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Okay. As always, though, the content provided on this channel is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be relied upon as legal, financial, or investment advice. So be sure to read through the disclaimer. And if you're new to the channel, I started a completely free newsletter called Investment Intelligence, giving out free valuable finance and trading content, as well as trying to put out 1 or 2 free trade ideas a week to you guys. Now, these are what the trade ideas will look like, highlighting the conditions on the chart, showing you guys the chart itself. And you can go back to the website and review some of the previous newsletters. There's some good stuff in there, and you can basically just see that many of the trade ideas have worked out very, very well, right? And the reason being is because I try to go for quality over quantity. So I'm not spamming your inbox. You don't have to worry about me spamming you with 10 trade ideas every single day, trying to brag about one that ran up. But rather looking for high quality setups. Now, RTX was one of the most recent ones. We talked about this one, and you can see people in the Discord hitting me up saying that their January call options went up over 88%. It actually went higher than that, over 100%. So that was a really good play, right? And, if you guys actually want to join the Discord, to celebrate the new year and really kick off 2024, I'm letting people get in for just $1. Okay, promo code JAN24 will get you into the Discord for just $1. That's where you get access to all the different analysis and trade ideas versus just 1 or 2 a week. So you can get into the Discord right now for $1, or you can just sign up for that free newsletter. Either way, I try to bring value to you guys, and I think you'll enjoy either one of them. All right, now let's start off here with TLT. And 97 was our key level here. There was a gap down to fill. We'll go over gaps and explain gaps a little bit more. But essentially in blue here, we have a gap, and we were targeting that 97 price right here. All right, there was about 4 warning signs that TLT was going to correct. We have seen a little bit of a pullback and correction here. The big question is, hey, is this a bear flag now forming? All right, shorter term, a bear flag, possibly. But when you look at the overall trend, there's a new uptrend has started, right? Now we broke through that uptrend line right here. That was basically signal number 1. Hey, we could pull back and come to that 97 area. We had a nice rounded top here. These rounded tops and rounded bottoms, like this Kardashian bottom here, these are good signals, right? This is a good bottoming signal here. We also had bullish divergence, where that's, if you're not familiar with that, there was a low, a lower low, and a lower low. So price action's making lower lows. But on the RSI, remember, that's your relative strength index. It's going to measure the relative strength of whatever you're looking at. And you see where we had a low, and then where we made a lower low, we actually made a higher low. And then we came down and made a lower low again, and we continued to make another higher low there. So that's a pretty good signal, and is definitely something that I like to pay attention to. And you can see that we had that, right? Now, when we broke through that initial bullish divergence trend line, so if you just extended that to the right, you can see that that also was another sell signal, right? And we broke that right over here, right? We broke the trend line here. We also had a bearish MACD crossover where that white line crossed below the red line. I've been telling you guys about the MACD signal for, over a year now on TLT. And it's not going to be 100%, but it's been a really good buy and sell signal for TLT. If you take a look at some of the previous bearish crossovers here, you see we had that strong move down, bearish crossover here, strong move down, bearish crossover here, and yet again, another move down. So, back to the gaps, right? So you see these blue boxes everywhere, right? Well, previously we had these gaps up to fill, right? Meaning that we were trading down here, and we had a gap up to 96, and we had a gap up to basically 100, right around 99 to fill. So we're looking and saying, hey, if TLT rallies, in this Kardashian bottom here, forms and holds, then hey, we can come up to 96, we can come up to 99, right? Those are going to be some price targets to the upside. Now, If we take a look, we had one gap down here at 97 to fill. We just filled that, so we can kind of check that off the list. And if we stay below 97, there's another gap down to fill at 94.74. So that's a reasonable target. Let's say if this is a shorter term bear flag, right? You have the flag pole right here, and then this consolidation phase is the the flag. Okay, and we fire down 94.74 is going to be your first target area, and then below 93.67, that's going to be some strong support there around 93.67. But we have another gap down to fill basically right at 93. Okay, so those are going to be the two areas where you want to pay attention to shorter term, right? Is hey, if we break below basically the most recent lows, let's just call it 96. We're going to come down most likely and fill that gap at 94.74, and maybe potentially even the gap down here around 93. Now, is this something to be, panicking over? No, not really, right? I mean, we've had a huge uptrend that hasn't seen any type of correction up until here recently. And this gives us plenty of room for higher low territory, meaning that we had the nice bottom here. And if we come over, and even if we pull all the way back to 89.39, that is still higher low territory. Okay. That is your 61.8% retracement level, and that's going to be a pretty key level if we were to come down that far. There's a lot of work for that to happen, and if we were to just take a look at a weekly time frame, right, what's really setting up very nicely to me, right, is we broke through, right. So there was this initial very long downtrend, right. We have this from July, and you see we come down, right, hit that, and we finally broke out here with a very strong breakout. And doesn't this look like a simple breakout and retest is forming? What's really interesting is our moving average here. The blue line is the 10-week moving average. Now, this is often a red light or green light, in the stock market, right? And in the markets, you can kind of use this as a red light and a green light. For instance, once we start coming under here, well, this is your red light. Like, hey, things are getting more bearish. If you're someone who's long only, maybe you're not interested, right? And then there was this very tough period here for a while, back in October of 2022 when the stock market bottomed and was rallying a lot. TLT was really just chopping for a long time before finally breaking down, right? And we finally just flipped that 10 moving average, the weekly moving average to resistance, and just, continued that bearish trend. And we got above here, right, in November, which is when the stock market also started rallying really well here recently. And you see it's just been up then, right? And so we're pulling back towards that 10-week moving average, which is also coinciding with that retest of that trend line. So, I think that there'd be a lot of support right there. And if we were to just take a look and go back to the daily time frame, not sure if you guys can see it, but let's call this a head, and then let's call this a left shoulder over here. And if we were to pull back, all right, even fill that gap at 93, that is going to be right shoulder territory. So it'll be really, really interesting to see where TLT finds support at. But I'm going to be very interested if it does come down to 93, because then you can set up a really good risk reward trade for the inverse head and shoulders, right? And just have basically a very tight stop underneath to try and catch will move, right? And that would take it, back up above 100, closer to 104, somewhere around 102 to 104, if that inverse head and shoulder does form and does play out. Now, that's a lot of ifs, so we're going to take things day by day, week by week, but you want to also kind of have a game plan for how things could play out, right? Let's say we pull back here, right? And this is that left shoulder, this is the head, and then we continue this pullback here right around 92, 93. That's going to be that right shoulder territory to potentially give us the inverse head and shoulders and send us up higher, again, towards that 102 to 104 area. When we look at TNX, right, TNX also was in a recent downtrend here, right, on the weekly time frame. You see we're below that 10-week moving average. And what's interesting here is that this is already retesting its trend line. So this is going to work out one of two ways, right? This is either going to be a look above and fail, meaning that a false breakout where buyers essentially are given the full opportunity to really go bullish here and drive yields higher, right, and be bullish on treasury yields. That's going to be your look above and fail. If they don't take advantage of that opportunity, it's going to show you that the bulls aren't there, right? That the demand isn't there, and that it's a false breakout. Now, the other scenario is that we're bottoming here, okay, and we're about to continue pushing up and potentially even try to get above that 10-week moving average. Remember, we talked about the red lights and the green lights. We can see here in November, it flipped it to resistance and it's been trading down. And that's also when TLT, broke through its 10-week moving average and started going up. So both of these look like they're heading towards their 10-week moving averages. But I think the TNX can give us a little more insight into TLT, and it looks a little bit more bullish, from a TLT standpoint when you take a look at TNX on the daily time frame. Okay, initially, we're looking for this move up, pullback, right, and then to continue higher up towards 4.128 to 4.187. All right, we're basically just going to call that 4.1 to 4.2 is where I was looking for the 10-year Treasury yield to go. And you can see it spiked up there, but it had formed this doji candlestick, and we just since continued pulling back. Now, 3.908 is basically the line in the sand right now for TNX. If it breaks that 3.908 level and continues to stay below there, that's going to be all signs clear for TLT to really start rallying and continue rallying. So, TNX looks a little bit more bearish. If yields are falling, if Treasury yields are falling, that's going to be bullish for TLT. And it's got some room to drop, right? You can see it broke out of this recent RSI trend line. We talked about, TLT breaking its bearish divergence or its bullish divergence, and then the price falling back. Well, here, we had some initial bearish divergence where we created a high and then a higher high. But at that same points, we were making a high and then lower highs. And you see we broke out of that recently, clean breakout, retest, push higher. If this was to drop down and retest that, most likely that's going to result in the 10-year Treasury yield breaking back down below 3.908. Now above there, we have the potential to continue going higher and get to that 4.187 level. So, it's setting up right now. It looks a little bit more bearish. In my opinion, like we could potentially break that level, but things can change any moment, right? So, always remember that cash is a position. You don't have to rush into trades, especially if you just like watch a video and you're like, oh, well, I like that one part that one person said, so I'm just going to go, YOLO my portfolio based off of that. You want to look for high quality setups, right? So, remember what we talked about with TLT, initially that 97 level being a very key level. Above there, we're more bullish, right? If it can flip 97 back to support from resistance, then that's a good look, right? But we know that if we stay below 97, then we have the chance of filling these gaps down. And again, that would coincide with TNX getting a breakout retest and push higher. Okay, hopefully all of this is making sense to you guys and not too technical. Now, SPY, all right, moving on to the S&P 500, people are going to tell you that this is a double top right here, right? We have the top in late December and then top here in early January. But what I want people to remember, okay, is that a double top is not it is not confirmed until you break the neckline, right? So this is our neckline right here, which is going to be just above 465, right? So for now, we're just battling resistance and, trying to push higher, right? And really just melting up higher. So, once we break this neckline, 461.50 is going to be your first target, really. That's going to be right around your 23.6 fib retracement. You can also see some support over here, right? But it's not going to be some huge major level, okay? If we were to come back into this zone, which is basically going to be 460 to 455, that's a more interesting zone to me because you see where we have this consolidation here. This means that the market is in agreement, right? And that it's in balance. And that's kind of what we're seeing each time we come up to these price levels is, hey, the market is agreeing and it's in balance whenever we come up to those recent highs. And, it's just waiting for an imbalance to be created from buyers or sellers. And we can see the initial imbalance was from buyers here pushing up higher. So if we were to break the neckline and break 461.50 and we come down to this 460 to 455 area, this is an area where the market was in agreement for a long time before finally getting that push up higher. And so if we come back down into that area, it's going to be really interesting to see, do we consolidate again in there and push up higher, or do we just break through there? All right, now if we do break through there, 451.47 is going to be your last line in the sand, essentially. Otherwise, we're going to come down and start filling some gaps on the SPY, right? We've talked about gaps on this channel, on this video so far. And these gaps, they tend to fill about 90% of the time, Okay, the big question is when do they fill, right? Not so much if they're going to fill. So, you know, in order for us to come down and fill all of these bearish gaps that people have, the first things first, all right, we have to break the neckline. All right, we have to break the neckline of the double top forming. Now, this double top can be invalidated, you know, if we come up higher and continue making new highs. I will mention as well that we recently bounced off of the 50% retracement from the recent lows, all right, to start off the year to the recent highs. And this purple line is an anchored VWAP anchored to the December highs. That's also where buyers stepped in, right? You can see initially on this red candle here, it's got a long tail. It came down to that zone, to that anchored VWAP, right? And basically, you know, bounced off of there really strong. So the average buyer, right, is green, even if they bought the December highs. That's important psychologically, you know, for investors, for traders, for the market. And so that's basically your green light right now. Okay, above the anchored VWAP, all right, so, you know, the volume weighted average price anchored to the December highs, that's going to be a bullish look, okay? And so the bulls can look for that to be continued support, right? And, you know, if we come down to that area, that's going to be an interesting area where, you know, you can look to put on a trade with a very tight stop loss. But once we start to lose that, that's when we're going to be approaching that neckline of the double top and the potential reality of breaking through that neckline. So for now, the bulls are still in control and potentially going to continue pushing SPY price higher, trying to get those all-time highs. You know, we talked about these divergences and how when you break those divergences, that also coincides with breakouts or breakdowns. If you take a look here, we have a high. Okay, then we made a higher high and we made a higher high. And look at what we've got on our RSI. We've got a high, lower high, lower high, lower high. And we're actually just cracking through this RSI right here. So if the daily RSI breaks out, that's going to be a good signal that the SPY is really, and bulls are really trying to push the price up higher, and that it's showing lots of relative strength and that we could get up to that 480, potentially 485 area when it comes to the S&P 500 SPY ETF. So that's going to wrap up the analysis for today's video. Don't forget to sign up for that newsletter using the link in the description below. Completely free to you guys. You can also sign up into the Discord for just $1 right now using that promo code JAN24. And if you enjoyed today's analysis and you ever want to go over some day trading dynamics, swing trading strategies, you want an interactive Q&A, or maybe you'd like to go over some options strategies and different things like that, feel free to hit me up on my Ko-Fi page using the link in the description. Click on the commissions tab, and in there you can book a 30-minute or a 1-hour session with me. You know, I do these sessions all the time. I've been doing them for, you know, about a year now. All right, you can also click on this buy a coffee button, basically a way to leave a tip or donation for the free valuable content I do put out there, such as the newsletter and such as these videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.